Let's get the update on the actual storm. Here's our chief meteorologist, Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Welcome in, Bob.
Yeah, thanks. I thank John Scalzi and Steve Newman for carrying it throughout the day right now. We're going to be taking it through the nighttime hours. Meteorologist Josh Stone is here as well with me. We'll be updating on Facebook. You want to go to Facebook, we're going to have updates completely on that throughout the night as well. And the Engage program on your cellular phone. If you haven't done it already, you want to download that program, WWSB ABC7 Weather. So go to that app store and download that program. We can actually go in and go to specific areas for you and your neighborhoods and actually highlight that and alert you to a possibility of a tornado or whatever it may be. It's a real good app to have. On top of that, you can also watch us on the cellular phone too if you lose power, so keep that in mind. I want to assure people that this storm is going to be a very serious storm. We just heard Governor Scott talk about that. This is to be taken very seriously. No one in this area has really going to see anything like that, what we're going to see with this particular storm. It is now over water, and that means it's looking a little bit better organized, even on the satellite imagery. I'm going to put the map into motion and show you again. It's made that break to the northwest. You can see it was on Cuba throughout most of the day, at least the fringe of Cuba, and now you can clearly see visible part of that eye with the enhanced satellite imagery. The deep core of the heavy hurricane force winds now are located right around the center there, and they extend out some 50 to 60 miles. The tropical storm force winds are much larger than that. They extend out over 100 miles from the center. We're already starting to feel some of that in Florida. Well, here's the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. The winds at 125 miles an hour. It is moving off to the west-northwest, so it's got a little bit of that northwest jog into it now, indicating that it's going to be picked up by this trough of low pressure over the lower Mississippi Valley. On top of that, the high-pressure ridge, which has been driving it for so long, is no longer going to be the factor for the most part, as it's on the periphery of that, and that is going to cause it to go right into our coast. There's very little change. I don't anticipate much change in the track and the future position of this storm. It's not going to zip all the way out to the central Gulf. We wish it would, but it's not going to do that. It's going to have a huge impact on our state, especially the west coast of Florida. We'll zero in on the latest track from the National Hurricane Center, and this is a full-blown new, again, cone of uncertainty. They come out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Another one will come out at 11 o'clock. I think we know the drill now after watching this for over a week of what it's been doing out there in the Atlantic and the northern Leeward Islands. Well, it's a 3 now, anticipating a 4 in just 12 hours. So it's going to be over some very warm waters. You heard the story. The water temperature there, 90 degrees. Although some of the winds and waves that have been around here for the day, it may have cooled it somewhat, but right now about 89, 90 degrees. And then it's going to make its way up northward. And the center line isn't on there because it could be within anywhere within here. Just a little bump, again, could push it out here in the Gulf of Mexico. Most of the models have been shifting west throughout the day yesterday and even today. You'll notice that cone of uncertainty has now moved off the southeast coast of Florida. 140-mile-an-hour windstorm is a Category 4, and that can cause structural damage. I hope that everyone watching this broadcast right now has completed their preparation for this massive hurricane for the most part. You're not going to have much time to do it at all tomorrow morning, and winds are going to be picking up fairly quickly. We already have tropical storm force winds sustained in the Keys. That gives you a little idea of the timing of this system again as it makes its way northward. Hurricane warnings across the entire peninsula now. Those are hurricane warnings, meaning that everyone, it seems, will have the potential at least of getting hurricane force winds at one time or another, be it in gusts or sustained winds, and it's most likely here from Naples northward all the way up past Tampa is the most likely area. We'll see that in the graphic in just a little bit. And as far as the power outages go, projections, it is going to be a massive power outage kind of storm. It's going to start in the Keys. It already has, as you heard from the governor, and it's going to continue. This is at 3:10 a.m. or 3:30 Monday morning. And on the scale here, that would be severe power outages into central Florida, even into our viewing area, and then high power outages covering the rest of the region. So that means for certain we're going to be without power. And how long? It's anyone's guess at this point. It depends upon how strong the storm is and what kind of structural damage it caused to some of the power plants there. As far as the winds go, these are now sustained winds, tropical storm force sustained winds in Key Largo at 49 miles an hour, 53 as you move down into Isla Mirada, and also you can see that 52 in Marathon, and then Key West at 46-mile-an-hour sustained wind. So those are tropical storm force winds, and they're experiencing those already. And you can kind of project that northward, and you get a feeling that we're going to see those tomorrow. probably starting around 10 o'clock. Now, this is a graphic. I checked it with those winds, and this is a projection of tropical storm force winds, and they're a little bit ahead. So this graphic's a little bit ahead of time. But if we were to look at this, we're going to have tropical storm force winds throughout the region. This is at Sunday, 10 a.m., and the yellow indicates the low-end tropical storm winds. So from Fort Myers northward up to Tampa, we'll be dealing with winds sustained at 10 a.m. Coming out of the east-northeast at around 35 up to 45, almost 50 miles an hour. So that's what we'll be dealing with. As I said, this is a little bit ahead of what we're seeing down in the Keys. So that's why I kind of compared the two to see if this graphic is really truly representative of what's happening right now. The orange area, this indicates winds at 60 to 70 miles an hour. And you'll notice at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's right there by Fort Myers. Now, if I advance the map here, you'll see those winds approaching into Sarasota County, and that includes Northport, Venice, Inglewood. We're talking also the counties to the east thereof. You can see this is eventually going to start spreading on into Hardy and DeSoto counties. And this is again at, what is this, in the evening, or the afternoon, 2:30 p.m. And then the red area that you see right there, that's the hurricane force winds. The hurricane force winds entering into the picture and sticking around. And that's Sunday night. As we've been saying, Sunday night is going to be the toughest part of this storm. Late Sunday afternoon into Sunday night. Everyone in this area of red, at least this model projecting from Fort Myers northward to Sarasota to Manatee County, will be experiencing hurricane force winds. What scale right now? Hurricane force winds 75 mile an hour and above sustained at this point. Will it be a category 3 or 4 hurricane? That still remains to be seen, but we're bracing for the fact that it could be a category 4 at this time. I'm thinking more in the neighborhood of a category 2 or 3 storm, but again, that is subject to change at this point. Still, either way, it's going to be an incredible storm for us here. The storm surge is always a big issue. Now, people have had questions about storm surge and evacuation. Right now, it appears that the storm surge will be anywhere from 3 to 7 feet for our area. The reason why it's not going to be this huge storm surge that you could get with a category 4 hurricane is because it's not coming at us at a right angle. If it were to be out in the Gulf of Mexico and move at a right angle, it would gather all that water near its center for a long duration of time and then eventually make its landfall. But this is going to be coming up from the south, and what happens, these hurricanes like to draw the water in where the strongest winds are going to be occurring, but there's no water to the east of the storm. It's all on the east coast, obviously, so it can't draw that water in from the Atlantic as it pushes northward. If it slips out into the Gulf a little bit more, well, a little different story. It could draw a little bit more water as it moves through, but the storm surge is still going to be significant. Up to maybe 10 feet in some of the areas in Charlotte Harbor, down in Charlotte County and near Sanibel, and places to the south in Naples and Marco Island. They're going to see the strongest of the storm surge, as well as the Keys, Key West, and places to the northeast of that. Well, there's not much room for error now. The forecast models usually get together pretty quickly within a day of the strike of the hurricane force winds, and you can see that moving through right around Key West, staying out into the Gulf, these models do, but still a couple hug the coast right there and move it on in. Now, obviously, as I said, the ones that move it out into the Gulf are a little bit more dangerous for us because the water temperature is very warm, and as we saw with the storm over Cuba, the center was over the landmass, and that kind of broke it up a little bit. It went from a 5 down to a 4 down to a 3 as a result of it being over land. Well, if it stays over water, there's a chance it could be a 4. So that's the reason why you saw that 4 hurricane symbol on the graphic. The National Hurricane Center suggesting that if it were to stay out in the water, there is a possibility it could be a category 4 hurricane with winds in excess of 111 miles an hour. Again, here's the European forecast model, which has been doing pretty good. It had suggested that it would move over Cuba and now right into Key West. A very terrible situation if this were to occur. Storm surge would be significant all throughout the Keys, and that's where the strongest winds are. We always talk about the dirty side of the storm. Well, it looks like we would be in that situation. Again, I want to run that through. We'll run the Euro model through again as we take a look at the spaghetti plots. You can see a lot of those models right there, but right through the Keys and then up in through the Fort Myers area, and then right into west central Florida. So a devastating situation it could be. Right now, if you've planned and prepared and you have your hurricane supply kit, you're going to ride this storm out. It's going to be tough going, obviously, but these things are manageable if you make the right decisions. You heard that earlier. It's not just during the storm either. It's after the storm that you see a lot of people get in trouble by making poor decisions, and we'll keep you up to date with that and what some of those decisions shouldn't be after the storm moves on through. A couple more graphics and I'll toss it back to the anchors here in just a little bit. This is a GFS model. Worst case scenario again for us right along the west coast of Florida. It's going to have an impact on the entire viewing area. So that's what I'm saying. Northport, Venice, Port Charlotte, Arcadia, Wauchula, up to Manatee County, Palmetto. We have Lakewood Ranch. We're all going to experience pretty much the same thing. There's going to be subtle differences, obviously, but we're all going to pretty much experience the same thing because of the fact that it's moving parallel to the coast. Again, the trough of low pressure, which is developing here, is going to drag it off to the north. It's fairly certain that's going to happen as we move through time. We are going to see that take shape. And as far as the satellite imagery goes, it's starting to look a little healthier again, even despite the fact that it's been over land today. Radar imagery, we're starting to pick it up from the Keys. You can see that quite clearly. It's over water now. Look at these bands of rain. They extend all the way up into South Florida now. And this is where the eye wall is. Now, you have to understand, it doesn't look that impressive because the radar is so far away, you don't get a good sense of how strong those storms are, but they are intense with winds at 125 to 135 miles an hour. This is what is kind of concerning for me. You know, we are not going to get the heart of the hurricane force winds until late tomorrow, but we're going to see these feeder bands make their way through. I haven't really touched on this yet. We're talking about 10 to possibly 20 inches of rain in places. Now, we had that heavy rain event just a couple of weeks ago. The ground is still somewhat saturated, and flooding is going to be a real concern. Now, I talked to someone earlier who said, did you see that rain yesterday? It came down. Those drops were so big. This is going to be torrential rain, and we're talking rainfall rates in the neighborhood of 3 inches an hour. There it is right there. Just that one cell in particular that I picked up, 3 inches an hour. Right now, not a lot of rain going on, a few showers over the eastern portion of DeSoto County. We're going to see more and more of these storms developing. And I also had a lot of questions about where the strongest winds where they're going to come from. Well, it depends upon the motion and track of the storm, but generally our winds are going to be strongest out of the east and northeast. Throughout the day tomorrow and throughout the evening hours, it's going to be out of the east-northeast. It's always a vital concern because remember, you make your safe room. You want to stay away from those strong winds and also look around your house to make sure that there are no trees that could fall into your home if you pick a certain safe room. I did that at my house. I made sure that I looked around the house to look to see what trees could possibly fall in the house and where they would fall. So I picked a safe room based on that, and you're going to want to do that too. Just a little tidbit of information. I'm going to take a little break right here, right now, and we're going to toss it back in just a little bit. But the main thing is that these hurricanes are manageable. It's not like an EF5 tornado. You're going to be hunkered down in your safe room. That's where you're going to want to be and ride this storm out. The safe room is in a small interior room away from exterior windows. Now, some people will say, well, I don't have a small interior room. If you can, find a closet, clean it out, and that's where you're going to sit and ride this storm out during the duration. I heard Steve Newman talk about it earlier, too. He said, you know, there are going to be tornado warnings. There will be numerous tornado warnings with this storm throughout the state. Not so much here, but throughout the state. You have to be very weather savvy. When you start to hear things and it gets real rough, you're going to be in your safe room regardless. Remember, the tornadoes are going to have the winds same as the hurricane. So it's all going to be bad, and you should be riding the safe room out. And it'll be for a good 4 hours, if not longer, in that room. We'll have more on this storm that is going to be heading our way. There's really no way out at this point. Details on that coming up in a few minutes. Back to you guys.